Everybody, welcome back to our episode of FSi DFS Fantasy NASCAR Picks. I'm host Row 31. We have Martinsville Xfinity, and yes, we had practice and qualifying last night. Yay! Thank you, NASCAR. So we don't have to do a speculation video. We have an actual information. Truck speculation video wasn't bad. Congratulations to Mark getting his first truck win there, and it was a pretty good race. And the time again had a dominant truck and got something to take him out like late. But I mean, he already has wins this season. He's going to have an amazing season, so it doesn't hurt him that bad. He's already in the playoffs, and I think he'll do really well there. But for DFS purposes, it made it quite interested. Even with Heim, he had enough dominating points there that my cash was fine. And the 20K lineup, like I had drivers in it. And I think Hemrick was one of them that I had there. It's like kind of those off ones with the chalk in it. Uh, if who was it that Enfinger, if he didn't have such a miserable day, like I would have had a great night. But it was decent. So moving on to Xfinity here. Martinsville track is an older track. It's uh, experience here definitely pays off. It's paper ship, paper clip shaped. And asphalt straightaways and concrete corners, and the tire wear is not like super significant here, but it's definitely a big factor. So managing tires helps, but I don't think I need to put the colors up for that one. The gold ones, and I missed this last week. It's the Dash for Cash. So the drivers that finish first, I think it's like 100K or something. If you win more than like one of them, that starts to multiply and things like that. And if you finish in the top three, then you're eligible for the next one. I think they have like four of them. So it's again, the details of it don't matter. You can look up online if you're super curious. But what does matter is that these drivers have an additional incentive in the race. Um, so that's something to look at also. So I put them in gold because it did seem to kind of factor in. They were all kind of up there fighting last week. So with the 250 laps, we're probably looking at least two dominators here, maybe three. Um, and then some place differential is definite. And there's one guy in the field that I think is could be a super sneaky play. So I'll get to that through the course of the video. So starting up top, Zilich, another hole here. It just kind of kind of like when Ty Gibbs burst onto the scene. Just this guy's different because he's had like a Ty Gibbs is like a kid literally, and Zilich has had a lot of racing experience before he came into the Xfinity Series. So I think he's definitely somebody that you can consider a dominator. Had good speed in practice. 10 lap average was like 12 though. So beyond that, it wasn't bad. So we'll have to see in long runs if you can hold it up there. But the thing that I definitely kind of consider playing him as a dominator. The only thing that kind of worries me is I just look at the truck series last night with like when Honeycutt was up there and not having like as much experience, um, kind of end up getting spun out, which I don't know if I can't remember if it's his fault or the truck beside him got loose and took him out. But I think that like your veteran drivers, ones that have been here, are the ones that you really want to look at. Again, maybe he has experience here. I didn't look up if he's raced another series here or whatever, but and definitely someone to consider. Awful up here also, like JR Motorsports cars looked really good in qualifying. And in practice wasn't bad, but he was 16th. So I think he's an upside dominator here. I think he's a pivot off Zilich if you think he could leave it early. But the one I'm looking at, I'm going to start my lineup as a dominator with Austin Hill. Hill has just been solid to start this season. Between he and Allgaier, I think they are like the ones in the best form here. He was number one overall in 10 lap average. So I got to go with that. And he's got experience. So that's where I want to start. Do I want to try and get Hill and Zilich in the same lineup? It might work out. I think, they're not like super high priced here. I do think that kind of like last week with Larson and yesterday with Byron, even though he didn't um, didn't work out. Got into a little bit of accident, couldn't really get up there and dominate. Eric Almirola has won this race the last two times here, and he's going for the three-peat. So at 12K, I think you got to consider that. But again, there's enough value in here that you could probably get Zilich and Hill and Almirola in the same lineup if you wanted to go that way. And there's your 2 to 3 dominators. Zilich and Hill dominate early, and then Almirola gets up there and it's the third dominator. So your choice. I think I'm just gonna go singularly Hill, but I'll see like once I get my builds what I want to do for my main cash. Jesse Love is up here. I think he's an upside dominator. He was outside the top 20 in 10 lap average, so the fall off wasn't quite there, but he usually is. So I think he's still in play. That's why I gave him like a dominating to me and not like a GPP tag up here. He's so close to like the 4X where I'm looking at, but I think he probably can have a top five car. Uh, it would have surprised me if he got out there and lit, but just with like Hill and Allgaier and Almirola, I just think that he's not really in my top five. Just looking at this and running scenarios and like who would be out there leading. Could he go out there like maybe lead like 20 laps or something? Yeah, it's potentially good pit stop, get out there and hold it for a bit. Yeah. So I think the potential's there, but I just don't feel the floor is there. Harrison Burton, had he started up here like a couple of years ago, in the fifth spot, I'd been like, hell no. Definitely put the fade sticker on it without even thinking twice. But I think he's right where he needs to be. Gary Allen type thing of his country song, right where I need to be, from like the 90s, early 2000s. That song was playing in my head as I was like thinking about Harrison Burton this week. It just seems like this Xfinity and on this team seems where it's right where he needs to be, and I think it may afford him an opportunity to maybe get into like a Gibbs car or into like a JR car or like something like better than this AM racing team, which is like middle of the road. But I think he has an opportunity to progress into a decent ride in Xfinity and be like a a playoff driver and like a maybe a outside contender for a championship. So congratulations, Harrison Burton. You found and watch, he like be the first one to wreck on here. And next week I'll be like hitting my head on the desk. But anyways, GPP here, I don't see him as a dominator. I do see him probably hanging around, potentially finishing in the top 10. So and his ownership's got to be low. Allgaier, I think he's going to be chalky. Like, I think people play him as a dominator also, number two in 10 lap average there. So if you want to skip Zilich and go like Hill, thinking that give Zilich in a couple laps and then Hill will get out there and overtake him and just dominate, and then Allgaier will get up there eventually and take over from Hill, then I have no problem for that too. It's going to be harder to get Allgaier, Hill, and Almirola in the same lineup, but Almirola is not egregiously priced like a 13K like Kyle Larson was, or like 14K like sometimes Kyle Busch was in this series when the rest of the drivers weren't as good. So uh, it's doable. And again, like if this is a perfect thing to do, like in the 20 max dollars, like build out these like top three lines and then fill in with like value cash plays that I've given you towards the bottom uh, and and hopefully one of them or multiple of them do really well, and one of them is like maybe the nuts lineup. So playing with these combinations. Brandon Jones GPP up here, right inside the top 15 in long run average. Usually pretty good with tire wear. It just again he just ends up finding trouble too often for me to have a floor for a cash play. And I just don't feel he's a dominator here, being outside the top. Like even if he got up there to lead, I just don't think he can hold it long enough. Uh Day, I think in this like Hendricks car has been solid and he's been solid also. So I think in GPP you could consider him as a dominator. I think he'll have like low ownership. Um, Probably not going to play him, but I have no objection if he's like your last guy in there. If you in like the mid range, if you need somebody in cash or GPP with some upside. I think it's GPP also. You're going to save like $500 from him, but I just don't think that he, without being in the top 20 and long run speed, has a chance to go out there and lead. Sammy Smith's gonna be the first 20K guy here because he's not in the dash for cash. I think people are just gonna kind of overlook him, but he was third in 10 lap average, and I think it's kind of like he's in like no man's land here because up on the top range here is where you have like all the ones where you're looking for dominators. Down here, you have some solid like place differential plays that could be like a secondary or third dominator through the course of the race as they progress through the field. And then he's kind of like in no man's land here. So I debated between Smith and Gray for like the 20K. Um, yeah, I like them both in GPPs. They're both coming at about like 4x here, which is where I usually want to be. But he was third and Taylor Gray was like 10th, so that's why I'm leaning more towards like the Sammy Smith. Thompson, I think he could hang out in the top 15. The Sam Hunt Racing program is decent, and 15th overall in fall off. GPP for me, but 67 is not a bad price. So, I mean, he's one that like kind of hangs around, like qualifies up here and just kind of holds his spot. I don't think it's be 12th. I think it's between like maybe 15th and 20th to be more realistic. But I do think that it's definitely someone that you can consider in GPPs as a kind of a value play. The only trouble is like Swalich was seventh, and he's like $100 more. So it be really hard. Like I don't really want you to blow up your lineup if you love it. If you end up with like the 67 just to try to get the extra 100 to get Swallow in. But but definitely it's going to be a huge pivot because I think Swallow is going to have high ownership. So it looks like you're sacrificing like maybe 6 DK points there, which not not horrible. But you know, if you're like trading off another driver to try to get like Swallich in there who over like Thompson, then just make sure that look at the projections here and make sure that you're not like sacrificing more than the 6 points because then you're really not doing anything for yourself. Sieg sandwich in the middle of them. I think Sieg's a great driver. I think top 15 is realistic for him, but did have like the long run speed. He's good on tire wear tracks. He's a veteran. He's been knows Martinsville tracks, so I think that plays in. Um, 85's starting 13th is little steep. I would like him better if he was starting deeper in the field, but GPP, but he's definitely still playable. Like if you end up in the 8,500 range again, I would probably hope to like maybe have like $100 more to get like to Eckes because he's got um, better long run speed. He did really well in this track in Truck Series, and he has better place differential. But again, if you it's the same situation. You might come down to a build where it's Thompson or Swallow. You might come down to a build where you have like the 85 and you're hoping to get the 86. Then between them, it looks like it's going to be like a 4 point uh, difference or so. So if you're screwing around and trying to eliminate a driver to get Ekison, definitely there's a little bit more potential there for place differential. But like 4 to 5 points, are you sacrificing more than that in your build? And that's what I do. Like when I'm building my lines and get to the stuck in those like kind of like positions. So Almirola, I think the best play on the slate here. I know like 19th, 10 lap average and stuff in practice, but he knows the track. He's been elite on these types of tracks in New Hampshire when he was in Cup, which is not similar, but like probably one of the most similar things out there. So definitely think that he's going to have a good day. He's going to be worth paying the price for. And I'm not saying he's a must play. It's not like one of those ones where like he's starting 37th and you know that he's absolutely going to be a lock, and then you just have to figure out who your other five drivers are. I can see cases to fade him in cash if he doesn't fit your build. I get it, but I really think that he's probably and he has the advantage too of not having to follow the same rules. Now this is going to be kind of like a weird race because of probably it's it's short enough that they might be able to do it on like one or two pit stops, like right after like the second phase. but you probably have cautions towards the end, and because it just like things start to ramp up, and they're not like major wrecks, but it's just like the truck series where they're trying to go like three or four wide and they're all bumping off each other, and then a couple guys get spun out, and then we re-rack them and wash winch repeat. Um, so you might kind of see that happen. But I think that, not having to go for stage points or things like that, that he has can do different strategies which could help him. The Corey Day, same thing. Like I really like when you have drivers like this. They have such an advantage if they're not out there trying to get points for the championship because they're not running for it. It gives them a little bit of more liberty to do things that the rest of the field is not doing to try to give them an advantage in track position. Sam Mayer is another one for Dash for Cash here. I really like him in GPPs here, but I can also play him in cash if you say 1500 off of Almirola, fifth and 10 lap average. I think he's going to be highly owned here. Alfredo has made a couple of optimals over the year. I think he was there in like 2020 three and maybe 2022, one of the races in the last couple of years. So I think he's always a cash play here at 72. I can say in like the top 20 and probably medium ownership. Feed's another one I like here. Might pair the two Haas ones and start GPP there just for their place differential, just to be a little bit different, and then like figure out like my dominators and my values in there. But like UC says, like the core, because I just 4 and 5 and 10 lap average, and I'd fade Almirola and Allgaier in there, and so I'd probably try to figure out who I wanted as my early dominator, and then have these two there for like place differential and round it out in GPP. But I think with the Dash for Cash, there's like an extra incentive there, and they're not they're cars that should probably make it up to the top 10, if not the top five. So Eckes again, I feel really good about him. He's great here at the Truck Series, and started out decent in this Xfinity Series so far. And I just think that it's a matter of time before he's like a regular talking about. I hate that he's in a collie car. I wish he was in like a General Motorsports car or better Chevy, but I think he's making the most of it. Top 10 and fall off, and usually pretty good tire wear. So good with that. Uh, $300 less. Drop down to Sanchez, and he's doing pretty well here in Xfinity also 11th. So if you can't get to Sieg or Eckes in this range, then I'm fine playing Sanchez. It's last man in cash, but probably more GPP. Wyatt Snyder, he's had some good races here, but I just think he's starting like way too far forward here in this DGM car. I just don't trust it. So fade for me. Blaine Perkins going to be another 20K guy here. People are probably going to overlook, but he had really good long run speed in practice. Um, and he's been, I think, in a couple of optimals recently too. I think in the last 2 years, like he was in one of the two races, he was in the optimal lineup. So I think people kind of overlook that. I'm fine with playing him in cash also here if you think that 22nd is okay, because sometimes some of the cars like further on back are just going to be falling to the back and just going to be lapped because it's such a short track that they're just going to be passed over and over and over and over again. So uh so definitely like him in the 20K lineup. Clements, my thoughts about him. If he starts outside the top 20, he's always going to be a cash play because he always has such a great floor. Ellis, GPP here. New Viata. Uh, Actually, probably should put a fade on him starting 25th up here in the Cope family car. But other than like getting taken out and it wasn't like his fault, like he's actually had a couple solid runs. Like he was running really well at Homestead last week, and this just got caught up in somebody else's business, and 20th like in 10 lap average. So this guy could be like my light version of Jeremy Clements. I think that it's a single family team with a solid driver that has a solid floor that's going to be the same thing that starts in the 20th. So you have to put GPP on. I'm going to keep on watching, but if you're going to be saving like $1,000 on this late version and he keeps on starting like in the 20s and finishing in the 20s and coming back with the 4x that we need. Might be somebody that's going to be a like perennial cash building block play, kind of like Gillian is in Cup, where never going to go up there and like lead the race or like win a race probably, but is somebody that you can lock in each week and have enough floor that you can get whoever else you want in your lineup and be happy. Josh Williams used to be like that too. Now he's like $2,000 more. So GPP play here. Josh Williams, when he was cheaper, has been in a couple. I think in the early race last year, he started somewhere in the 20s and ended up being in the optimal lineup. So just the pricing's got a little bit more expensive here. He's around the 4x. So I could maybe see him as a case for him in cash, but I like some other drivers better in this range. Retzloff just hasn't had. He was really good in the Jordan Anderson. The Alpha Prime car hasn't been as good, so still a learning curve. I think like he's very, very smart driver. I think things will start to click and he'll find his way, but he's just not there yet. So GPP for me. Di Benedetto, I think he's gonna be highly owned here, down here, 17th. Just doesn't qualify well. Viking Motorsports, the jury's still out them as kind of like a single car team here, but they have that's some good people working for them. I think you definitely can hit 4x, and I have no problem as a cash play. I'd probably drop 500 and go down to Brendan Poole here, who has also been in a couple of optimal lineups in the last few years. So that's somebody I could really get behind as cash play here. Right, Maglo, GPPs here. Should do okay. Don't really like Joey Gase cars. Star Motorsports is pretty solid. So if you find yourself down this range, I think you can be okay. But Perez, give me a problem play here. Uh, I just really like what he's done. Like last week, I think he finished 28th. So if he does that, he's going to get to the 19 points that he needs to, and it, it's only 4 place differential points. He seems to stay out of trouble. Alpha Prime's been a solid team, so I'm gonna make him a prime play because it was the cheapest driver on the slate. Like I don't think you really go wrong here. Um, and worse, like if he's gonna lose like six points for you at the cheapest price, I don't think that's that bad if you get everybody else you want. So um, feel free to pivot off, no problem. Get it. Um, Greg Van Alst is like $100 cheaper. So if you wanted to go with him over Perez and have a little bit more safety, because his like worst case scenario is like a -2. But keep in mind they also it's not gonna be a -2 because it's going to be a 1 because there's not 40 cars in the track, and DK is always a 40 car system just in case there are. So if the 38th place driver always starts with like 3 points. So if Perez falls down there, then he's going to be a -3. That's going to be the worst for him. So really like Perez, going to give him a prime play there. Um, Patrick Staropoli. You're probably saying who? Watched Truck Layers last night. He was in the field. You might not have noticed or not, but he had a silently really good night. He started 35th. He ended 20th. Now, if he does that, he's going to end up like scoring 34 points. I took 10 off that and 24 points, and he's still a 4x play. And to do that, he just probably need to make it to like 28th or 27th here. So I think nobody knows who this guy is. I think nobody's going to play him. He's a little bit more expensive than the drivers down here. He's in a Sam Hunt car, and which is much better than all the other cars down here, besides maybe Burton and the Jordan Anderson car. So like lots of things. And again, I think he's gonna have low ownership. I think he's probably less than 1%. Nobody's gonna play him. Lock him in for my 20K lineup and maybe some other GPPs. And this could be the steal of the day. Smithley and Sieg, GPP down here. Van Alt, already talked about him. I think he could be a strong cash play. Also, usually finishes like 32nd, 33rd. So there's, I think he can get to the 19 also, or enough for the 4x play. So again, if you're trying to get up there and play the three king lineups with three 10K drivers, then you're going to need value down here. And I think that between like Perez and Van Alt, that's fine. Where's GPP? I just don't trust the equipment. And then Jeb Burton. Make sure you put the right Burton in because when I searched Burton and DK, I accidentally had Harrison in there, and they're $300 off. So you don't want to put the wrong guy in. But starting last, 18th, just sometimes cars back here like you fear because they might get caught up in a wreck early, but going through the field, but I think he's fine. I think he's got nothing but upside. And I think you've got to kind of lock him into your cash game because he just has such a potential. Is this car is probably a top 25 car, so you're looking at like 13 to 15 place differential points, if not more. Um, so definitely going to be playing some Jed Burton in cash and maybe in some other items too. So I got for you. If you have any questions, put them in the chat below. Hit me up, Megaro31 on Twitter/X. If these videos help us back, like, subscribe to our channel, and share with your friends. And I'll be back tonight for the Cup video. And keep in mind, Major League Baseball is back. Great weekend to use your Crown Boost on DK. Don't forget about those towards the end of the month if you have any left. And if that's still a thing, I think they are. And then like $6 if you want to come in FSi, go to the description of the video. You can sign up today. All the sports. We got soccer, we got MLB, we got NASCAR, we've got hockey, we've got PGA Showdown and NBA. Like great weekend to play a lot of sports. So hopefully you out there enjoying the nice weather. Have a great weekend. I'll see you tonight for the Cup video, and that's it.